Got Andrew Krammer with me right now to break down the film of the 23-13 win over Tennessee. Andrew, also first, though, you must endure my 3 hot takeaways from the game. I hope you're ready for them.
Let's do it. I hope they're spicy. We can do it.
They're like medium spicy. This is not a game that had a lot of spice level to it. Let's be honest. This was a game that I'm sure the Vikings were just happy to get out of Tennessee with a win. Some weirdness in this game, some good things to take away from it as well, which we'll get to probably more in the film review. But here are my three hot takeaways. Number one, I think wide receiver 3 is becoming a problem. Jalen Nailor dropped another big pass, not getting much out of that spot. And again, I know it's probably not that important. You got to pick your spots on your roster, and he has done some good things this year. I know he's caught 4 touchdowns, but not getting a lot from that spot. And again, when Jefferson's getting so much attention, I wonder if there's an upgrade coming there at some point. Maybe not this year, but at some point.
Yeah, boy, I saw too this same Sunday. The Patriots made KJ Osborne a healthy scratch, and he's kind of fallen out of favor on a 1-year deal there. I do wonder if he could find his way back. I think Jalen has had a lot of bright moments. We saw him earlier in the season, as you mentioned, but this middle of the season, you've seen maybe some kind of regression or lack of consistency. He had 2 procedural penalties. I think they were in those losses to the Rams and Lions. He dropped a pass in the red zone against the Rams.
Yeah, that's right.
That was huge. And then, he drops what would have been a touchdown on Sunday. Last week, Mark Sanchez on the broadcast was blaming him for a route on a missed throw in the end zone against the Jaguars. So, the connections are such where with Nailor, the opportunities are going to be so few that the connections got to hit when you go to him. And they just haven't. His few opportunities have not turned up. They've looked pretty bad. And I think it's little things. I think it's a player. We got to remember too, Nailor has not played a ton of football. He wasn't on the field much last year. So I think overall, this is still a guy who's developing and learning much more than a first round pick like Jordan Addison certainly was as he looks in the middle of his second year to be coming on when Darnold kind of makes him the focus of the passing game. So I don't think that's too spicy. I think Nailor has certainly been lacking the consistency you want from him, because when you only get 2 or 3 looks a game and you drop touchdowns or red zone passes the way he has, that's going to stick in coaches' minds. It's going to stick in the quarterback's mind. And it's probably not going to lend to him getting a ton of opportunities moving forward short of injuries.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they don't really have a lot of other options right now. You got Brandon Powell, Trent Sherfield, and both of them are pretty sure-handed. Sherfield made a good, I think, 3rd down catch when Darnold was scrambling around, but he's not, he's in there usually for run blocking downs. Powell's more of a possession receiver kind of guy. Like Nailor has all the attributes you'd want. He just isn't really taking what has been given to him in the last 4 or 5 games and running with it. He's got all those. He's got the game-breaking speed. Mm-hmm. He just needs to make more plays.
Yeah, the hands got to be there too. You just can't drop those passes. Your title is receiver. That's the one job you got to do after above all else. Once everything's done, you got to catch the ball. So I think they like him enough. They have enough trust in him that they're going to ride through this tough spot. I don't expect them to bench him from that wide receiver 3 role, but going into next offseason, it will be interesting that if he doesn't turn things around and become more of that consistent player and end on an upward trajectory, we could be seeing more of an investment, because this offseason, it was just Sherfield. It was $1 million guaranteed to bring Sherfield off kind of the scrap heap. So I do wonder if they'd invest a little bit more to bring a reliable guy in next offseason.
Number 2, Andrew, in retrospect, I know he's a warrior. I've been championing him all year. I kind of think Aaron Jones maybe could have sat this one out. He just doesn't quite look right. He looks like he's still favoring whatever happened to him when he took that hard hit last week against Jacksonville. They didn't really get the run game going at all against Tennessee. Now you got Bears game. The Bears looked a little bit better. You got some more important games coming up where you're going to need him. I kind of wish they would have sat him in this game and given him a week.
Yeah, he only played, I think, a little over 50% of the snaps. So in that second half starts with him asking out after taking just a huge hit by one of the defensive linemen. I think it was their 300-plus pound nose tackle, Tavondre Sweat, who drilled him. And you could just tell he's still feeling, whether it's just the rib injury or probably the laundry list of things he's kind of piled up at this point. The guy was averaging, going into the game, a career high 19 touches per game, or what would be if his season ended now. And he got 16 touches before really going into more of a limited role in the second half. The problem is that Cam Akers isn't like running the ball a ton better. His success rate, his efficiency is not there. They couldn't run with anybody against the Titans, who outmatched them up front. They make the change with Dalton Reisner to Ed Ingram. What you're going to lose there is an ability to move people when your technique is right. And Reisner in his first game this year didn't always look right either, much like Ed Ingram looked incorrectly when he was playing. So they've got a lot of issues up front. I think Garrett Bradbury has had a rough run through the AFC South here against some of these defensive tackles that they've got. Bradbury is a guy who will always look bad against size, and the AFC South has a lot of it. So I think internally in the O-line, that was still an issue with running the ball. But you're right, Mike. I think they got to look to ways to kind of get him right when they need him most. And I don't know if they're going to necessarily need him a ton, certainly in that game against the Titans, nor maybe against the Bears this Sunday. If he does play against Chicago, I wouldn't be shocked if we see more of a rotation or at least a concerted effort to take some snaps off of him, because you need him for the stretch run. They know how important he is. And at 8-2, maybe you at least deserve or have earned a little bit of a breathing room to sit him a little bit.
Does this kind of show us? I mean, he was their big running back free agent offseason acquisition, of course, and he's been great. He's been terrific. But does this show maybe a misguided faith in Ty Chandler as kind of the, they had to go get Akers again, and he's not been great. I mean, they just haven't really developed anybody else behind Jones that they can trust, and I kind of wonder if that's been a miss in the draft or free agency in the last couple of years.
Yeah, going into the season, they trusted Chandler in a limited capacity. They trusted him to take runs off Aaron Jones, not pass protection reps, not third down reps, because when the season started, it was CJ Ham pretty much immediately in that role. So they had kind of a two-headed plan with Ham and Chandler to try and take reps off Jones. The problem was Chandler has been so inefficient and became so inefficient outside of one good outing against the Niners. If you look at the rest of his season, especially when he had to replace Jones in that Jets game when Jones picked up the hamstring injury, it's just been really bad for Chandler as a runner. And that's why he needs to be on the field when he's good, because he's as fast as anybody, as elusive as they've shown outside of Aaron Jones. Among their running back group, he has been very elusive. So they thought that was going to be the thing, and it just hasn't been with Chandler. So yes, I think that showed a misguided view of what he could become. And we always knew he was not going to be a third down option because he was awful at pass protecting last year. And going into this year, they frankly just haven't asked him to do it much. So they acquire Akers, reacquire Akers in the hope of getting that first and second down guy. And it's been bad matchups, but it also hasn't looked very good for Akers either.
He's just not that explosive. He's okay. He's fine, but he's not going to make anybody forget Aaron Jones usually when he's out there. Last one's probably the least spicy of all. I'm kind of going decreasing spice level here. I don't think that was not Sam Darnold's best game, but that kind of feels like the blueprint for what they want going forward. I think that's kind of, if you were asking Kevin O'Connell, like what do you expect from Sam Darnold? This is kind of what he likes to see from Sam Darnold. Careful enough with the football, but not so overly cautious that he's not pushing the ball down the field. I thought he had as good a mix as he's had for a while in this game.
He has. I thought he was really good in the first half because the pass protection, the O-line was pretty bad throughout the game. Cam Robinson, your left tackle, is playing through a foot injury, and it looked like that. I would guess that bothered him just because he wasn't as powerful, got moved a little bit more against the Titans, who move a lot of people. But Darnold was moving on the run. We saw him make plays 2 3rd and 6 downs on one of their touchdown drives in the first half. He spins out of pressure, finds Sherfield, as you mentioned, on one, turns around and finds Jefferson down the other sideline for the other. Those are just plays that I can't remember who it was. I read a comment. I think it was Amani Hooker, Minneapolis' own, the Titans safety, when he said, I don't know what it is, but when quarterbacks play us, they turn into Lamar Jackson. And Sam Darnold had a little bit of that on Sunday. And so, I think Sam played pretty well for him. And in terms of the typical game they want from him, it's the 0 interceptions. He had the fumble that goes to him, but look, that pitch can be a little behind Aaron Jones. He's got to make that catch.
Yeah.
The running back has to corral that. I honestly think that should go on the running back, but I understand Darnold was the one with possession of the football. So I get why that stat goes to him. But it was 0 turnovers. As far as Sam's concerned, and as far as coaches should be concerned, that was a pretty clean game from Darnold. He took sacks when he needed to, instead of trying to force things downfield. He evaded tons of pressure to find guys, and it wasn't perfect. There were moments where Jefferson was left open, and he took checkdowns to Josh Oliver. So it wasn't a totally perfect, clean game, but it was a well-managed game from him when he didn't have a ton of help by the offensive line or the running game, and you allowed your defense to do, at least in the first half, what they needed to do. So yeah, Mike, I liked what they saw, or liked what you got from Darnold. They should like what they got from Darnold. And that is the kind of game that, as long as there is 0 turnovers basically for your quarterback, you're going to be in most games.